happening?
Are we live?
Cool. Let us know, man. What we getting into next, bro?
Something that's been brought to our attention through the conversations that we've had with some listeners and whatnot has been around seasonal changes and what that means for like seasonal depression and things like that, right? We always say that this show is built around being able to give people that are going through it just a moment of positivity and of good energy. And I think it's part of the conversation is speaking towards the people that are going through it and what that looks like based on the environment, based on things that they can do to get out of it. You know, so I always have fun when like we get when these types of conversations come around, because they stem directly from interactions with people that care about the show and that are listening to the show. And so it's a lot more intimate, right? So and I know you've got like a very deep experience with with depression, dealing with people with depression, dealing with emotional intelligence. You're quite articulate in that. So a conversation between us two, inviting the people that care, inviting the listeners that care about this information. What is your experience with what's been your experience with depression?
That is hard, man. It's hard for everybody involved. And it's not just hard for the person that's experiencing it. It's hard for everyone that is trying to support them. And that, like most things, like a lot of things that we talk about on this podcast, it takes a village, right, to battle depression. And I think it's more common than any of us realize. So we all benefit from talking more about it and learning how to recognize it and learning how to support people when they're going through it. Because even if you're not clinically depressed, the tools and the mechanisms that you can use to combat depression, did I say that right the first time? Will help you in your day-to-day life too, because we all go through highs and lows, you know, even if it's not at the level of clinical depression. Yeah, definitely. And so I say this to you all the time. One of the things that really excites me lately is just going deeper into what the brain is, right? Going deeper into what makes the brain, going deeper into who we are based on what we have inside of us, and approaching the brain as a muscle and approaching our emotions and our thoughts as a byproduct of how that muscle operates has been something that's really allowed me to really break down and understand where my emotions are coming from, understand depression from a clinical perspective to a non-medical perspective. You know, there's so many different layers to all of this information. In no way am I an expert, but in my own process of being able to approach it has been to fully understand the biology and the mechanism behind where emotions come from. Like we're seeing a lot of studies recently, right, where they're equating your diet and your gut biomes into what allows you to be positive, what allows you to have energy, which then releases dopamine, which then allows you to be, that's the happy chemical in the brain, right? Things that lead towards that happy chemical being produced in intervals of doing things that you care about. Because we know that depression chemically is when those levels of dopamine are not necessarily excreted at the right time. Yeah, man, it's really interesting to think about that from the scientific perspective, and to think and to be reminded that like it's everything. It's what you eat. It's how much sun you get. It's when you start to talk about dopamine, it's how much you engage with like what could be considered more artificial sources of dopamine, such as like, you know, clicks or likes and social media, and or even, you know, whether that's drugs or alcohol or some of the gambling, some of the other things that we engage in that kind of light up those same centers of the brain. So how does all of that, like that knowledge that you take in, you know, I think we've spoken many times on this podcast that serves you in the sense that it's led you toward meditation. It's led you toward, you know, being very intentional about going to the gym and working through emotional issues in that way, and working through extra energies in that way. But how does it inform how you help others and be a part of a support system for your friends and family and loved ones when you see them having a hard time?
I think one of the cool things, right, is that because there's levels and scales to everything. There's very simple things that all of us can do that will change that initial part of dopamine engagement, right? And again, this is not prescriptive. I'm just sharing my experience and what I've read, right? Which is that simple things such as maintaining a balance between your social life, your health life, and your active life and sleep. Right, those four things, a balance and an intention behind them, is that has the ability to be able to dramatically increase the level of dopamine that people can be able to excrete. Right, a deeper conversation into that. I don't know if we've got, and I'm sure we've gotten to it into the show before, but there's many things that we develop a habit of doing that have been dopamine inducing at first, and then we just squeeze we squeeze all the dopamine triggering elements of it. Right? Nah, Miles, don't do that, because that's exactly what I'm getting to. No pun intended. Porn addiction is one of those things, right? Right now in this time, bro, there's a huge porn, and even the science in porn addiction is not fully understood at the moment. But that's another one of those things. We get into the habit of jerking it, and then now we're just doing it just because it's habit, and we're not getting any dopamine out of it.
Big facts, man. Big facts. I appreciate you looping it into some of the conversations that we've had previously, especially about those things that we just incorporate into our routine and start to lean on a little bit too much. I want to back up just a little bit and then go to, because I think you laid out, right, like approaching it from that perspective of like, okay, well, what, like even on a scientific level, brings me happiness? And what's proven to do that? Working out, eating right. Let me make sure I focus on those things. Backing up just a little bit, though, when we talk about your friends and your family members and your loved ones who might be going through it and struggling, hopefully all of us, each of us has this like safe place where we feel, or safe person, safe people, safe system of people that we can go and talk to, and really, when we're asking how you doing today, you can really give it to them. Like you can really tell them how you're really feeling and talk through that. But sometimes we don't have that, or sometimes we feel like we shouldn't be struggling in the way that we are, and we hold it in, right? And so how do you as a friend sometimes recognize when one of your friends is struggling, or a loved one?
That's always very difficult, man. That one is extremely difficult, and I'd love to hear what you think about it too, because like a big part of it is that people will allow you to see what they want you to see, right? There's obviously a lot of very obvious signs of someone going through the stages of depression, which would be a change in routine, a dramatic change in routine, a lack of cleanliness, squalor, just living within a mess.
That's squalor, real. Dude? What is that squalor? Living within a mess? I've heard that word many times, but I never. This is my safe space where I can say that. I don't really know what that means, dude. What is that?
That's what it is. Living in squalor is living in just a collected mess, right? So hoarding and dishevelment, right? That would lack of hygiene also would be included in one of those symptoms, and that's it. Looking at them as symptoms, is a big thing, I think, as well.
True. Yeah, man, it can be tough, right? Depending on how close you are to somebody, your environment, right? Sometimes our coworkers are going through it, but there's this kind of professional boundary that we don't want to cross in terms of getting into other people's business. I think we have that with friends that might be closer to that acquaintance line. But then there's the other flip side, right? Where you have a close friend that's going through it in some way and maybe not talking about it. But it's obvious that something ain't right. Yeah. I think we both have experiences with that as well.
Definitely. And if we're being transparent, right? If we're being transparent with this platform, and obviously protecting the privacy of the people in our lives, but like we are friends that recently had to have a conversation about a friend that we're worried about, right? And behind the scenes, and be like, yo, I don't know if you've spoken to so and so, but I think so and so is going through it. Let's get together as boys. Let's speak about it. Let's understand what's going on, and then let's see what type of help we can push forward going through that. And I think a big part of being able to attract people that will do that for you is being somebody that would be that for somebody else.
1,000%, 1,000%, right? You have to be willing in order to give help to anybody, in order to give anything to anybody, you have to have of yourself. And when you start to talk about mental health and when you start to talk about wanting to heal somebody from whatever life is thrown at them, you have to have healing in your own life before you can bring that to somebody else's life, right? And so part of that healing is that support system that you just like alluded to. You and I got together. It's so much more, it's so reassuring and it's so helpful to me in being able to help my friends and knowing that my other friends will participate in that. You know, it's incredible to be certain and for sure that when I go to support one of my homies, that there are other people that are able to, you know, assess the situation from their own perspective, their own knowledge, have other touch points with them so they don't feel like I'm the one that's associated with whatever issue they're going through because I'm the only place they talk about it. And also to help me, because my experience with supporting people that are close to you that are going through it, whether it's a mental health challenge, whether it's a physical health challenge, like that weighs on you, right?
Yeah.
And it's amazing to be in touch and be connected to, you know, other people that may know the same person that y'all are trying to support, and y'all can support each other through that. That's important.
Yeah. Hey man, we can quote so many Jay-Z lyrics around that, but like, you know, if what is it? Be each other's crutches.
Yeah.
Come on, yo, the fact that I cannot remember Jay-Z lyric right now is
be each
embarrassing.
other's crutches. Yeah, for sure. You got it.
Yeah, I got it, dude. And spiritually, I got it for sure. Spiritually, I got it.
No doubt. But that's kind of, if I can allow my vulnerability to lead the conversation for a little while, when it's somebody that's really close to you, it can really be tough because, especially it can really be tough because you wanna help, but at the same time, when somebody starts to go through it, they can respond in all sorts of ways that might not make sense to you, right? And it can be like, it can feel like you're losing this friend before you think about, oh, they've got their own issues, right? Some things can be taken as disrespect. Some things can be taken as, you know, like, whoa, this is a side of this person that I've never seen before. And it's just really important that we apply all of our empathy to these scenarios. Cause like I was saying at the beginning, man, we could all be going through it, you know?
Yeah.
We're all so close, like, and especially in these times where nothing is certain, man. With COVID, with, you know, like the rates of violence that we're seeing across the countries, with people's safety being at risk, it's like it benefits us all so much to just really start to expand the bounds of our empathy, to realize that that person that looks like they're in a place that you could never get to is you, for real, you know?
Damn,
And
you said some bars right there. Keep going.
the person that looks like they're in a place that you could never get to, that's you, right? Plus and minus some circumstances that are unforeseen and that were unforeseen to them. And man, I just really encourage people to diversify the places from which they draw self-assuredness, confidence, well-being, peace of mind. That's what I really wanted to get to. Diversify the places from which you draw peace of mind, because once you've done that, you can share so much more, man. Because it's tough when one of those key places breaks down. But it's incredible that, you know, if I can't talk to you, I can talk to my mom. If I can't talk to you or my mom, I can talk to my brother. You know, these wells from which I draw peace of mind. It's important to diversify that, yo.
100%. And also shout out to our momzos who are the biggest fans of our show, which is a fact, So shout out to them. But I love what you said about expound the bands of your empathy, right? I think that's a very dope concept. A lot of when we go back and speaking towards these like brain hacks of sorts, these dopamine hacks, acts of servitude. Acts of servitude are a big way to be able to increase your empathy, to increase your gratitude, which also leads to your dopamine, right? Which always comes back to the controversial question of, is there such thing as true altruism, right? Like that's the big question of all of helping. Is like, is there true altruism? There's when it comes to emotions, there's no absolutes in a lot of things, right? Especially in something like giving and servitude, because when you're doing that, regardless of what your return is, you still are giving towards somebody else's return, towards somebody else's dopamine, and towards somebody else's joy, and whatever the case is. So just in speaking towards suggesting, and the reason behind what gives us so much joy, right? What brings we share this passion together, right? We share a passion of being in the hood, helping kids. Like, that's for us. We draw a lot of fun from that, and it's an energizing activity to make the focus of our lives. But it doesn't have to be that extreme, right? Like, it doesn't. This is not the entry level for gratitude when it comes to servitude. Like, there's so many different ways they can give it. So boom, they did a study, right? And I'm all about the studies. You know what I'm saying?
No.
I'll push out the statistics on it, right? But they did a study where they gifted a company for a bonus, $10,000 in cash. They were like, okay, cool. For this year, we're gonna give you $10,000 in cash, and then they gifted that to them, and then they rated their happiness levels. Then they gave another set of individuals the same amount, but that amount to be able to donate. Right, that same 10,000 bonus to be able to donate. When they measured the happiness levels between the people that got that cash to spend, they were low. They ended up at a lower time than the happiness levels and the gratitude levels of the people that gave that cash away. They were saying that they were still able to feel good about that decision almost twice as long for as the people who ended up going to spend it.
I think that's a beautiful story, and that's a beautiful like piece of anecdotal information to be able to share, because it really conveys so much in a concise way. And what it just made me think of is that the connection of service and helping and altruism, how much being able to serve helps you, I know personally helps me, is so deep, because there's this aspect where being able to serve, being in close proximity to those who need your help or need the service that you're providing, allows you to see the humanity and the dignity of people that might need some help. And the flip side of that is that can help you be assured of your humanity, of your dignity when you need help.
Yeah.
Right? And that's important. That's powerful,
That's dope.
That's powerful.
That's dope. Thank you for bringing that in. That's so big, right? Like the humility. There's so much humility that encompasses being faced with people that are going through, that are really going through life, and then in that humility, you're able to be grounded in gratitude into yourself, and then also when it's time for even you to help, for you to be helped, the gratitude levels in that are significantly higher, because you understand what it takes to be able to help somebody. Man, it's a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing. And if anything, I'm so encouraged by everybody that reaches out to us about the work that we're doing with the foundation. People reaching out to us with the work that you're doing personally in Chicago, all these things. It's important that I thank them out loud, because when there's feedback on them and there's engagement with it, and we're getting and I'm having conversations with people about it. Like it makes me so happy. It really is so meaningful. Sometimes it's even awkward to respond in real time when someone's like, man, you guys are doing such great things, and I love the help. Like it's difficult sometimes to be able to respond to that, because it's such a it reaffirms the direction and our belief in that we are really at a time where we can make a change, all of us, and there's the future can be brighter if we want it to be. Not to get on my kumbaya moment, but like, dude, I really do believe that.
Well, let me allow me to ground us and remind you that when you are faced with those moments where it's like where somebody, you know, is expressing their gratitude or appreciation for what you do and you don't really know how to respond, what you can tell them is to like, comment, and subscribe to the All the Way Live podcast. You dig me? You know what I'm saying? That would be really helpful. And we'll really appreciate that if y'all could do that, man. That's really important to us. This is a space where we're trying to hone our ability to amplify everything that is amiable and happy and powerful and expressive. So contribute to this space. You know, if you believe in what we're doing, if you like what you see, if you think it's worth $1, let us hold that. It don't even got to be $1. It could just be a click. Appreciate that.